is Michel Boudreau from the Canadian Railways Via Rail. Please join me in giving him a very big round of applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, bon après-midi. So I'm pleased to be here. The purpose is really to share our journey towards the change of the reservation system from a 24-year reservation system to a new reservation system. I need to say that Via Rail is a Crown organization, and sometimes when we refer to Crown organization, it appears not to be fast in decision-making. So maybe here we'll share a little bit of some change and maybe misperception at times. So as I mentioned, the current reservation system has been built over the past 24 years. Still working, but it's coming to the end of either technology, but also the cost of implementing new changes, and also let's say the getting to market introduction into production. So lack of flexibility and so on. And of course, inconsistencies of adding new functionalities. So it has been a long journey, going from a request for proposal, having made the choice of partners, starting to lay out the grounds of some sort of a plan, and we came to the conclusion that we had to own more. We had to own more, and this translated into being the integrator. And when I say own more, it's about the responsibility of bringing this together. We could not consider that a partner would have more knowledge of our business than we. Initially, it was not the setup, but during the course of laying out the grounds of the plans, this is what we came to conclusion. So what does it mean? So from a solution perspective, the core, what we call the back end, solution is from skills with some adjustments, some let's say product feature to meet our needs, and also a front end to more express and address our particularities from a Via Rail perspective, culture, taxes, and there's a number of things. Right? So the front end is for what the passenger, the journey of the passenger, and also our business. Now, what does it mean to be the integrator? What does it mean to own more? Of course, every system, there's a blueprint, right? In everything we do, there's a blueprint. It's really about owning the blueprint. It's owning the architecture, the vision of the architecture, because there's no other partners that have the vision of how we intend to move forward in improving the rest of the landscape. And not one partner owns the full landscape. So we had to own the architecture. The other piece is the translation of our one-liners, if I can say so, of our requirements into specifications and some sort of work order. It's also for us to do because we know more of our business. So this is a piece that we kept. Same thing for the governance, the quality, the framework of how we would proceed from a delivery perspective, and all the conditions that are required to go live. Now, of course, there's a few pillars that we have kept in mind. Of course, customer first, right? The workforce, we need to empower them, and it was a big thing to make sure that the interface that our call center uses is as close as possible to the passenger experience. So this was also a very important pillar. The other piece is the ability to go fast, the go-to-market faster, the ability to have more flexibility, and also not to reinvent everything. So having skills behind and our particularities at the top, this is the vision, and this is the way we constructed it to make sure that we can go in production faster and more frequent as it's required for the business. So, as mentioned, of course, scalability was one. The current system was up to the maximum. The ability to also have more flexibility for introduction of new tariffs, introduction of new products, add-ons to the service. So this was also a very critical piece in our work. So there's still, although it's a 24 years system, there's still a lot of new functionalities. We've been, let's say we're in the midst of, let's say we're not yet in production, but this is where we're going. And this is just a set of new functionalities that we're adding. More autonomy for the passenger and also for the business. And of course, it meets the strategic vision of Via Rail. Now, the approach. Of course, the typical steps of a project. I'm going to focus more on the build at this point, and we're still in the build, but we're heading to the go live. So, the way we proceeded is really to have, as I said, we are a Crown organization, and we tend to have a cooperation, collaboration, and the decision-making, sometimes it's not about one individual, it's about multiple individuals to make sure that we can, let's say, reach some sort of agreement. So we did proceed with a progressive approach of having multiple releases. Of course, in the project, the initiative, because of the quantity of requirements that we had to meet, we had to move on to a minimum viable product, because if we would do the same as the same capabilities that we already had in a modern system, it would have taken probably 10 years. So we had to come back to a minimum viable product. We also had to split this in phases. And this is phase one. There's a second phase of the minimum viable product. And the phase one has been split in 5 major releases, incremental releases, and 2 last product increments. Now, each release has a start, an end, demonstration to the business, acceptance from the business, even if it's not in production. And we started with the foundational elements, and then we built from it. And it's about the back end, it's about the front end, and it's progressive integration. That's the way we proceeded. We are currently in increment 2. So as I said, we're very close to the go live. And we're very proud about it. So this formal project started, the kickoff was during the COVID. It was October 19, 2020, and we've been doing this with the different partners and also the VIA team, all remotely since then, and we have been able to reach this point, increment 2, with something that is quite, let's say for us, we're very proud of this. So when you look at the complexity of changing a full reservation system remotely within 2 years and about 2 years and a half, we think it's just it's a great experience, and as I said, we're very proud. I don't think it shows when I say it, but we're very proud. So there will be other phases, of course, right? So we have phase 2. Here, what I think out of this, the message is we have one go live for phase 1. It's a big bang. We have no choice. We cannot have a cohabitation of the previous system and the new system for multiple reasons, of course. Then we have phase 2, and phase 2, the intent is we start to implement changes in production faster. So new business benefits progressively, shorter, faster. So that's intent. And then eventually, after phase 2, as we're doing phase 2, we implement what we call product evolution. And we get into what we call also steady state. So the experience of phase 1 and phase 2, the intent is to lay out the grounds of what's the new organization to handle the evolution going forward. So it's quite of a change because we are in a matrix management within the organization, so it's not the typical structure for people that are managing the business. So it's just to give let's say, some sort of understanding on the number of releases and real content. So all those releases are complete. And I need to say that so we're basically finishing increment 2, and we're going to get into the last business validation and so on. I need to say that since release 3, well, first of all, the integrator team, the VIA team that is integrator, it's a dedicated team with the business, for the business. So we have pulled people from the different aspects of the business inside the project with a leader. So they are product owners, and there's an overall product owner, which facilitates and has also the delegation of the business. It's not we say a blank check, but there's strong delegation to the business, and the team is experienced enough to understand at which time we need to go and ask for alignment on the trade-off. In addition, what we started to do at Release 3 is bring more people from the business as super users, because it's a huge change. We're changing the workforce experience, and we're changing also the customer experience. So we had to bring the different, and also the business managing let's say, all the fairs, all the products and so on. It's a major change also. So since Release 3, we brought inside the project, under the tent of the project, within the project structure and also within the governance, about 20 somewhat super users to represent the business and act as change agent, to make sure that we can have adherence immediately, and if something would pop up, we could address it. So the Build Factory, it's based on the Agile framework. It's not perfectly agile because we came from far. We started to establish specifications, and we moved from specifications to use cases along the lines, right? So a dedicated team, as I said, by the business, with the business. Product owners, one team approach. So we have a joint governance with the partners, and we're in a position, as mentioned here, to make trade-offs. If we would have continued and believed that another partner would be able to make trade-offs on our behalf, I think we would have been in escalation all the time because of financial aspect, because of deadlines, you name it, we can find a huge list of reasons. So those reasons, I'm not suggesting it's easy to make trade-offs, but it's our role to make trade-offs on behalf of the business and to decide to make sure that we can go forward. As I said, we have delegation. So the governance, it's a bottom-up governance, and this was intended to make sure that by discipline, by skill set, we're able to make sure that the people are empowered from a decision-making, but within their scope of responsibility. And if ever they would have to make trade-off, they could go to the next stage. So it's really a bottom-up, and it's multi-partner. It's totally transparent. The only thing that is not transparent is our own budget, but the rest, there's no need, there's no reasons not to be transparent. So we have been working as one team, and it's still the case today. After the COVID and all the challenges we've been going through, it's still the case. We're one team, and The intent is we're going to be one team also in phase 2. Now, pulling people from the day-to-day business and saying to them, you know what, you're going to come and you're going to be part of the project. We're doing this change of reservation system. You could imagine that the people will say, well, I don't have those skills. I don't understand. Why me? And what will happen after? Will I have a job? Will I have this? And so on. So here is just to say, that's the reality. The people that join, I can assure you that there's no one saying this anymore. I think after a few weeks, they understood their contribution. And in fact, they are exposed to the way we do things, how we structure things, the decision-making. So it's kind of immersion. Those people will go back to the business. But as we need to ensure product evolution, they will be leading the product evolution. They will have the trades that were not inside already. And the project had no choice to build the trades, the method, the approach, the flexibility, the decision-making, the governance. All those aspects are part of the blueprint. Now, I need to say also that, let's say, those individuals, those key individuals, as they came under the tent of the project, we realized how important it was to keep the blueprint. Why? Because outsourcing does not mean that you give away your responsibility. And you realize this when you're in a project like this and you need to do reverse engineering of the decision you have made that you did not necessarily track because you did not know. So those are also lessons learned, and it reinforced the fact that we made a good choice to be the integrator. Now, I don't need to sell this, right? Being the integrator was, as of now, it's a success factor. An integrated team with the business, with the people that knows the run of the business, inside the team with additional players that understands the trade, the methods, and so on. This is also, has been, as of now, very critical. The one-team partnership, full transparency, having everyone, regardless if it's skills, CGI, VIA, all together in order to tackle whatever problem or opportunity that we may have. Same thing for the transition to the run. We could do a very good job at the project, but if we're unable to transition properly to the run, we failed. So it's the same approach for the transition to the run. The governance, clearly, it helped the decision-making. It also created empowerment, which is not always clear in an organization where it's hierarchy all the time. Right now, it's matrix management, and people could decide. So this was even, at the beginning, people were concerned. Progressing, they started to create ownership, empowerment, and so on. And it reflected on the team. So the name of the project is Everest for many reasons. So the Everest team is, to a certain extent, also has right now influences on the rest of the people inside VIA and also partners. By the type of decision-making we have no choice to make. And the trade-offs, as I mentioned, we cannot outsource trade-offs on the business. So having this team within the integrator, it helped us to make trade-offs rapidly, instead of believing that someone else will be able to make it. And very often we have this discussion with the partners, and they do recognize that this was the best decision we've made. It was not an easy one, but to be an integrator. And the other thing is the incremental delivery. Why? That type of project, if you don't show on a regular basis, because the budget of this is like it's a city. The budget required, just as an image, it's the cost of a city. Phase 2 is bricks over a wall from a budget perspective. So if we don't show progressive results, I mean, it doesn't work, right? Questions? Thank you.